Your goal after watching this video is to know what order to solve operations in an expression in. So first, a few keywords. A numerical expression, you'll hear that word a lot, solve or evaluate the expression. An expression in math is basically like a math problem. It contains only numbers and operations. So an example of an expression is 5 times 2 minus 3. To evaluate an expression, evaluate just means find the answer. And to find the answer to any math expression, you have to follow the order of operations, or you may not get the correct answer. So, how many of you have heard of PEMDAS? Raise your hand if you've heard of PEMDAS. Okay. I want you to kind of forget about PEMDAS because in middle school and high school, we have a lot more math operations we use and a lot more math symbols we use. So to include them all, we're going to use GERMDAS. So please write on your paper, GERMDAS, what you see on the board up here, GERMDAS. What makes you sick? A GERMDAS. All right. Under the G, please write grouping symbols. Grouping symbols include parentheses, so when you learn PEMDAS, that's why you learn parentheses. So you always do what's in grouping symbols, like parentheses first. Grouping symbols also includes brackets, absolute value bars, and fraction bars. A fraction bar, maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't, but divides the numerator into a group and the denominator into a group. So if the top of a fraction, the numerator is 2 plus 1, and the bottom is 3 minus 2, this part up here is a group, and this part down here is a group. All right, after you evaluate what's in the groups, then you move on and you evaluate the exponents and the radicals. Exponents are things that are powers, so like 2 to the 3rd power, the 3 is the exponent, so you evaluate that pretty early on. And radicals are things like square roots. And in 6th grade, you're probably not going to see a lot of those, so you won't have to worry about the R too much. 7th grade, you'll see a few more, 8th grade, you'll see a lot. So exponents and radicals are equals. The E comes before the R, but that doesn't mean you always evaluate exponents before you evaluate radicals. We just had to put one first, and GERMDAS sounded cooler than GRUMDAS, so that's why we have the E first. But if radicals come first, as you're reading the problem from left to right, then you do the radicals first. If the exponents come first, you do those first. Let's move on to M and D. I'm guessing I can get a few guesses shouted out for those two. Just like exponents and radicals, multiplying and dividing are equals. So multiplying you don't do necessarily before dividing. If dividing comes first in the problem, you do the division first. If multiplying comes first, you do the multiplication first. We just put the M before the D because GERMDAS sounds cooler than GERDMAS. So first, you evaluate anything that's in grouping symbols. Then you take care of the exponents and radicals. Then you take care of multiplying and dividing, or dividing and multiplying. And finally, you add and you subtract. So those are the last two things you do. And adding and subtracting are also equals. If subtraction comes first, you'll subtract first. If adding comes first, you'll add first. So now we're going to use the order of operations to solve a few problems. Every time I solve an expression, I write GERMDAS at the top, so I remember. So first thing I do is I look for groups. Are there any grouping symbols here? There are not. Are there any exponents or radicals? There are not. Is there any multiplying or dividing? There is. So I go in my problem, I start from left to right, and I look for multiplying or dividing, whatever comes first, and I see, hey, there's multiplying. 2 times 4 is 8. So I write that down, I rewrite my problem. Now my problem is only one step. There is no more multiplying and dividing. There's only adding or subtracting. And it doesn't really matter. The order of operations doesn't really matter anymore because I only have one step left. So when you only have one thing, you only have one choice. Do it. 12 minus 8, 4. All right, moving on. Another problem. I wrote GERMDAS down at the top. So first I look for groups. Are there groups? Yes, there is. So in my group, I evaluate that. 3 times 5 is 15. I can leave the parentheses around 15 if I want. It won't hurt anything. But now I see that in my groups, there's nothing left to do. All I have in there is 15. So I'm going to cross off groups. I could also just remove the parentheses now that I'm done doing what's in the group. Then I look for exponents and radicals. There are none. Then I look for multiplying and dividing. So starting from left to right, do I see multiplying? Nope. Do I see dividing? Nope. Oh, hey, here's dividing. So I'm going to do 60 divided by 15, which gives me 4. So now I just have 7 plus 4. I don't have a choice what operation to do. There's only one left, and I get 11. I'm going through these quickly. If you need to pause and rewind to make sure you really understand it, please do that. All right, another expression to evaluate. Here we've got 30 divided by the quantity, or the group, 7 plus 2 thirds, 2 to the third, times 6. So first I look for groups. Do I have a group? Yes. Now, in this group, there's more than one thing to do. We've got an exponent in the group, and we also have some adding in the group. So once you get into the group, the order of operations starts all over. So I can do the order of operations just for this group. Inside the group, are there any more groups? No. Are there any exponents or radicals? Yes. So 2 to the third power, I know, is 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 again, which is 8. So now, the problem I need to solve looks like this. Okay? Are my groups done? Nope, I still have one thing left to do. 15. I can leave the parentheses or just take them away since there's nothing else to do in the group. All right, now my groups are done. Exponents and radicals don't have any. Multiply and divide from left to right. Oh, I've got multiplying and division. All right, remember they're equals. Whichever one comes first, I do first. So let's do this first. 30 divided by 15 is 2. Now I'm just left with 2 times this, which is 12. All right, just a quick thing. In 6th grade in middle school, you'll see different ways to write multiplication. So the x that you're used to using can be used to write multiply, 7 times 2. You might also see a dot, like that, which means 7 times 2. Or you might see something right next to parentheses with nothing in between. That also means 7 times 2. Let's make sure we can also apply order of operations to a word problem. You buy foam spheres, paint bottles, and wooden rods to construct a model of our solar system. What is your total cost? All right, so let's look at the 9 spheres. How much do they cost per item? $2 a piece. All right, so I have to pay $2 9 times. All right, and plus means and I have to pay $3 for my paint. And I need 6 containers of paint. So I have to pay $3 6 times. And I have to pay $1 8 times. Okay? So order of operations says I multiply before I add. So let's go through and do our multiplying. $18 for the spheres. 3 times this. Also $18 for the paint. 1 times 8. $8 for the rods. So we add them all up. 18 plus 18, 36. Plus 8 more, 44. Okay, your job for tomorrow is to use the order of operations in your math notebook to work this problem out. The first thing I should see in your notebook is the word germ beds. Then I would like you to copy down this problem. 50 plus 6 times the quantity 12 divided by 4. Remember that this right here means times. So 6 is being times with multiplied by whatever is in that group. And then minus 8 to the 2nd power, or 8 squared. Please write this down. Do it step by step. All right? So figure out what your first step is. Hint. All right? Solve that part. Rewrite the problem. Remember, this means multiply when there's nothing there. And then do the next step. Rewrite the problem, do the next step. This is what I will be looking